The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. We're open line through till 1 today, so whatever it is you want to talk about. Don't know whether you heard the Chief Minister yesterday on Perspective talking about the turnaround plan for Manx Care, which needs to happen almost immediately. And Chris Thomas, MHK, was on as well and making some bold suggestions about what may be happening politically over the next few days. But if you've got any answer to this, by the way, if you can actually sort the whole thing out, then I'm sure they'd love to hear from you, particularly as there's that government conference that's happening this coming week at the Comus Hotel. The Manx Care overspending is headline news, says G, but then they promote a new pathway for transgender services. Where is that funding? Then they report abuse of the board. Sorry, sympathy doesn't excuse inept performance. Manx Care must have spent almost £1 billion, says G. They mentioned yesterday when there was the criticism of Manx Care said they condemn personal attacks, named attacks on its executive team. Everybody that lives on the Isle of Man understands the pressures here, which aren't unique to the Isle of Man. Manx Care condemned what it said were personal named attacks targeting members of the leadership team on social media and labelled it bullying. The board members expressed their full support for the executive team, reaffirming that Manx Care's got a zero-tolerance policy towards such behaviour. And they praised senior managers for doing an extremely challenging job in extremely challenging circumstances. The chair, Wendy Reid, emphasised that public servants should be treated with respect at the very least. This is Wendy Reid.
As a board, we want to offer our full support to all our executives who are doing an extremely challenging job in extremely challenging circumstances. Everybody that lives on the Isle of Man understands all the pressures here. They're not unique to the Isle of Man, but the way we treat each other as public servants, at the very least, it should be with respect.
That's Chair Wendy Reid talking about the response to that overspend and the fact there were personal named attacks on the executive team. Juan's first with us today. Hi, Juan.
How are you today, Andy?
What a day it is, Juan.
Oh, lovely day, isn't it? Look, it was even better earlier on before we had 20 chemtrails came over Douglas, but we put that to bed weeks ago, didn't we? Did you watch the last night of the proms on Saturday?
Sadly, I didn't know. I was far too busy getting over the fact that FC Isle of Man beat Cheadle by 2-0. Actually, a clean sheet. Fantastic.
Brilliant. I just looking at there was, I think, 4 Free Legs of Man flags there, in among, was it 4,000 EU flags that had been nicely given out free to people to wave patriotically. BBC propaganda in its finest. What? A whole last night of the proms with EU flags given out for free. So you can't beat it, can you? Just want to drop on to, let me just get my computer up, updated guidance for COVID-19 boosters for the fall of winter 2024. This is from the Florida State Surgeon, who's in charge of the health of Florida, 21.6 million people, I think. And I'm just going to cut to the chase on it. He is advising that people in Florida do not participate in the uptake of any more COVID vaccines.
And this is the WHO. What's his name?
This is the Florida State Surgeon of the state. I say 21 million people in that state, so it's quite a big state.
And he says that people shouldn't participate in the uptake of vaccinations.
Indeed, he did. I'll follow you this through if you want to, but I'm just going to read the bones of it. Additionally, the federal government has failed to provide sufficient data to support the safety and efficacy of COVID-19 boosters or acknowledgement previously demonstrated safety concerns associated with COVID-19 vaccines boosters, including prolonged circulation of mRNA and spike protein in some vaccine recipients, increased risk of lower respiratory tract infections, increased risk of autoimmune disease after vaccination. Leading on from that, the mRNA COVID vaccines present a risk of subclinical and clinical myocarditis and other cardiovascular conditions among otherwise healthy individuals. The mRNA COVID vaccine may be associated with the increased risk of postural osteitis tachycardia syndrome, if I've got that one right. The vaccine may also be associated with the increase of autoimmune diseases.
So what do you think we should be doing here, Dunjuan?
Well, you know what, Andy? I mean, this is not a new conversation for me. And this government have always just gone on, well, we take the advice of someone else. If you were standing by a wall with cracks in it and someone says that wall might fall on you, should you go and get it looked at and get a second opinion? And I've said this for so long now. There's so many people here now that have got coughs and colds and immune system problems that they can't get rid of, myocarditis, and this is going on and on and on. And I just say to this government, please look at what is maybe happening to people on this island. And I'm just quoting this as factual statements here from the Florida State Surgeon. And the State Surgeon General of the department continues to encourage Floridians to prioritise their overall health by staying physically active, minimising processed foods, prioritising vegetables and healthy fats, and spending time outdoors with support of necessary vitamin D levels. How many times have we talked about this on this programme?
Many. And this is now factual from, this is a state with 21 million people that are saying this. Now, someone's going to come on and go, oh, it's a Republican state, blah, blah, blah. But this is the Florida State Surgeon, and I'm just saying that. And I would hope that someone out of them 24 people in government will put their head above the parapet and go, hold on, we may have a problem here. I know people who are not getting well. They're not getting rid of their coughs and colds and flus, short of breath. It should be looked at. That's all I'm saying. It should be looked at. Don't stand by the wall with a crack in it. Okay. All right. Thanks,
Take
Stuart.
care, Andy.
Good
See you
to
later.
hear from you. I'll get some vitamin D today. There's lots of it. 14 minutes past 12. And if you want the current guidance of the government, there is up-to-date guidance on COVID-19 and other respiratory illnesses. Go to gov.im and find out what you do. There's a whole page called Respiratory Illness. What they say is try to stay at home and avoid contact with other people, avoid close contact with anybody who's at a higher risk of becoming unwell. Cover your mouth and nose when you cough or sneeze and you have to go out. Avoid crowded places such as public transport, large social gatherings. That's the current updated advice regarding respiratory illness on the Isle of Man. At the point that Mr. Cannon and his team decided to reform the bus service, says John in Ramsey, things have changed with the pension, overtime rates, and all the measures were put into practice to save money. How his cost savings have put the bus service in disarray. Next, says John, apparently he's got the inside track, next is the privatisation of the NHS, and all these measures that he'll implement will hit the working class people. So, sorry, John, a lot of that has been corrupted in the spelling and what have you. You want to give us a call, John, by all means, 857. Just tell us what you think of this. I don't think anybody's talking about privatisation of the health service. I don't think anybody's talking about privatisation of the buses as yet. So it's a bit of a leap. However, Mr. Cannon says a turnaround plan for Manx Care is needed following this £16.8 million overspend. Mr. Cannon said it's very, very serious.
The position with regards to the latest healthcare overspend is very, very concerning. It will have to be tackled. There will have to be a turnaround, and that will have to be addressed immediately. And I will make clear to everybody what that turnaround will look like once we have got to an agreement about what its objectives are and when it will take place. But it will have to happen almost immediately. We can only spend what we can afford to spend, and we need to quickly get to grips with our understanding that the money that is being allocated is being used as efficiently and effectively as possible, and also that the organisation, Health Care, Manx Care, can operate to a financial discipline, meaning that they will stay within their budget. I'll be totally honest with you and with everybody else that it is completely unsustainable for them to continue to overspend their budgets, especially given the amount of money that they received in the last year's budget, and particularly given the fact that that also incorporated a tax rise, which means that everybody has had to contribute more in taxation over the last 12 months, and that Manx Care received a further £20 million in direct taxation, as well as £23 million or so in terms of added extra allowance from the Treasury and from our income receipts. If it's not addressed, it will cause us to have a very serious and negative impact on our reserves in the very short term, and that by itself will be a matter of great concern.
That's the Chief Minister. I think you get the picture. He's not terribly happy about about the situation. We went through the numbers last week. £350 million a year Manx Care costs. That's £6,673,076 and 12p per week, which is £953,296 70p per day. So, I mean, give or take £46,000. It's £1 million a day that Manx Care is costing us, the health service of the Isle of Man. He says can't go on, just simply can't go on. It's going to impact our reserves. It's going to be drawing from the savings, if you like. They're forecasting a £16.8 million overspend for this financial year, slightly improved from July. It was 18.7, now 16.8. The health body has blamed things like pay awards, adding pressures to finances. So earlier on this year, in February, it was announced the higher rate of income tax would rise from 20 to 22% to generate £20 million specifically for the health service. Well, the conference is this Tuesday. It's tomorrow and Wednesday, 17th and 18th. It's at the Comus Hotel. So there'll be some interesting... and he said it's got to be sorted out straight away. Any thoughts? Tony B's with us now. Hi, Tony.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts, Andy.
Yeah.
Right. The first thing I would do, if I was him, is I'd get rid of the board, half of who don't live here, but I'd get rid of the board because they don't seem to appear to do anything. So if they're not doing anything physically, why do we need them? What decisions are they making that are so critical? The people who need the help are the people on the front line. The whole system of Manx Care is not connected. Nothing is connected in Manx Care. So if you get an appointment, for instance, for a chest clinic, and you get an appointment for, I don't know, an X-ray, which is to do with that chest clinic, they're on different days. And funnily enough, the chest clinic appointment is before the X-ray. So I asked myself, why is there no joined up writing between these two departments, or in fact any of the other departments? And this is not the fault of the doctors or the nurses. It's the fault of the administration.
I think and that's a very good point, Tony. That's the one thing we need to make absolutely certain now, is that we're not aiming this at anybody who is doing the actual work, the people on the factory floor, as it were.
No, I agree, 100%. I mean, I'm sure I'll get threatened with court action for telling everybody that there's people in there who are basically just pushing paper around the desk, but they're not achieving anything because there's no plan. And if there is a plan, nobody seems to know what it is. So the people at the top are at the problem, because that's who are the responsible people. So those top people need to go, all of them. Get rid of the whole thing, because it doesn't work. And I don't think it's ever going to work, because they're more concerned about figures and little percentages and what they've achieved rather than healthcare itself. Just a thought, and the other thing I'd ask, I'm waiting with bated breath for what he's going to do about this, but the other thing I'd ask him, what are the 5,000 working people that he's hoping to attract to the Isle of Man, what jobs are they going to do? Because I don't see 5,000 jobs out there, and I don't see industry creating 5,000 jobs, unless, of course, you're going to put 5,000 more people on the civil service payroll. Have a think.
Yeah, you wonder, don't you?
I'm not being negative. I don't have a problem with the increase in the population in general, except we're not ready for it. We haven't got the infrastructure. You haven't got the health service. It goes on and on. But also, where are the jobs coming from? If you had a private healthcare system at Nobles with lots of consultants, that would absorb probably 500 or 600 people. But we don't seem to have moved forward with that, because Manx Care, it's more important for them to say we've done 15% reduction in this over here by spending £5 million. It's madness. We're not achieving anything. It's great for the individual who gets his operation done quicker, but it's not good as a system. And the system does not work properly. And I don't blame any of the healthcare professionals. I blame the people in charge, which is the board and all the managers they have hanging around the place.
Okay. All right, okay. Tony. I appreciate it. Thanks for calling.
You take care, Andy, and ask Alf where he's going to get these 1,000 jobs from. I'd be really interested.
All right. At 23 minutes past 12. Manx Care. Do you remember? It's not been here forever. In fact, it's only been here 3 years. Manx Care, established in April 2021. An arm's-length organisation established to focus on delivery of health and social care on the Isle of Man. So basically to separate it from the Department of Health and Social Care, which continues to be responsible for strategy, planning, policy and regulation. Get it? Government, politicians, if you like, those civil servants, strategy, planning, policy and regulation, Manx Care, delivery of health and social care. So it was created to stop the kind of obfuscation between the two. So Manx Care is just over 3 years old. It was also tasked with finding savings, getting to the bottom of where savings could be made. So Manx Care, primary care, urgent, emergency care, integrated care services, mental health services, social care, preventative health care, screening, immunisation, women's, children's, families' health, public health delivery programmes, and private health care as well. Well, as yet, the private wing hasn't had much progress. But I just wonder what your thoughts are regarding Manx Care and the fact that it is a little over 3 years old and we have seen ballooning costs. Now, they may have been unavoidable, we don't know, but the costs have ballooned. Everyone has, and I probably, like you, have had anecdotal evidence of things going wrong at Manx Care. As Tony said, letters arriving after the appointment. Similar letters arriving that don't seem to make sense. Not enough GPs. Not enough dentists. Things like chiropody disappearing, that sort of treatment. Podiatry treatment is going. So in the face of challenges, if you like, and problems that people will report, and the cost going up, we're faced, the Chief Minister is faced with a big decision. And no doubt he's been pondering on it over the weekend, because tomorrow the conference starts. If you had the ear of the Chief Minister, what would you be saying to him about Manx Care? What would you think? Now, the continued expansion of Peel, I think serious consideration should be made for the replacement of the rail link with Douglas. You heard the story in the news. It is that those houses, the 92 dwellings in Peel, the plan has been approved. Dandara has been given the green light to build the estate on land adjacent to the Peel Golf Course, Glenfaber Rise and Castleview Nursing Home. At a meeting of the Planning Committee today, the plans were once again put before after being deferred for a site visit earlier this month. It marks phase 2 of the developer's plans for the west of the Isle of Man, including a mix of 2, 3, 4 and 5 bed properties. 23 of the homes are going to be affordable. Well, if you've got any thoughts on this, of course, the infrastructure in Peel, well, what's going to happen? Members were told that Peel Clothworkers School has been over capacity since 2017. Plans for temporary classrooms at QE2 were approved this year. So we're back to the porter cabins at QE2. So what is going to happen? If you've got any thoughts, and if you live in the west of the Isle of Man, Peel is getting bigger and bigger. It will have more people. It will have more houses. No doubt the commissioners will be getting more revenue because of the rates, and the retailers have more customers to choose from. But Peel's changing, isn't it? Peel really is changing. Upper Peel and Lower Peel, or if you like, New Peel and Old Peel, are different, and it just seems to be spreading around. However, it is the government's stated aim that we are to get more population. We're to get more people on the Isle of Man. Thanks also to his 762, Frankie. Has the government of Manx Care thought of a fact-finding mission to New Zealand to see how they run their healthcare system there? And what would it prove? What would it prove? Thanks also to Chris in Douglas, 641, says, if you look at who the majority users of Manx Care are, you'll see that they are retirees. I trust you've got figures for this, Chris. We should remove the triple lock and use the gained money to fund the use of Manx Care. How much would it save, Chris? I mean, again, do you have figures, or is this off the top of your head? If you have got figures, please send them in. Why don't our MHKs start by giving up their £7,000 tax-free lump sum over a 5-year term, says Tony. Why should they, Tony? Why should the Western world is based on law of contract. So if you sign a contract, an employment contract, and it guarantees you certain thing, why should that change? If it's all a blame game, then blame the government for failing us, says 775. So the Chief Minister's blaming Manx Care for wasting our reserves. What about that Liverpool shed? What about the 2 big ship for the steam packet and the promenade in Douglas? All government mismanaged projects. At least the overspend has actually helped us, says Dave. The Chief Minister's finally realised in the Post after 3 years that the government can't spend more than it receives. It's a pity he didn't see and think that way when £240 million was taken from the reserves during COVID to pay people to stay at home, says 828. Well, not many people complained about it at the time, 828, it has to be said. Sarah said, regarding the health budget, why don't we take a transfer of funds from the green budget to be spent on health? Well, Mr. Cannon reported the Michaels report into the creation of Manx Care and the subsequent funding requirements. Now he's ignoring the report, and particularly the amount of money Manx Care needs to run correctly. Blaming Manx Care when Mr. Cannon is underfunding is the problem. Well, we don't know, do we? As users of the system, we don't know the ins and outs and the daily comings and goings of the finances of Manx Care. We don't know where the money's going. We don't know what possibly may be an overspend. There may be underspends. We don't know what their priorities are. However, what can't speak can't lie. They've overspent. Quite agree, says Barry on 655. I agree with Tony. Sack the entire Manx Care board, sort out the senior management. They are the cause of the issue and the overspend. The people on the ground seeing patients are brilliant, says Barry. Thanks for that. So, what is going to happen with this? The Chief Minister has told us, Manx Radio, a turnaround plan for Manx Care needs to happen almost immediately. Well, he said that last Thursday. And by the way, this coming Friday, we'll get, Tony was saying, where are the new jobs coming from? Well, the financial future on the Isle of Man is reliant on business bringing employment and the personal taxation revenues that come from the salaries and wages. Of course, the government employs people, and that brings in taxes and NI as well. And the people responsible for bringing employment are the Department for Enterprise. Their job is to kickstart economic development for Manx businesses and those who would come here and create businesses. Well, this coming Friday, the Enterprise Minister, Tim Johnston, MHK, is here with Chief Officer Mark Lewin talking about what Department for Enterprise does, the departments within it: digital, finance, business, visit, locate Isle of Man, plus the registries, the central, the ship, the aircraft. All that information we'll get on Friday. If you want to talk to Tim Johnston, by all means call. You can text, you can email, you can leave a message on the answer phone. But Department for Enterprise on this coming Friday to see where the new jobs are coming from. We've been very good and very nimble since, 1984, in the past 40-odd years or so, in reshaping the Manx economy. Times were very tough in 1984. Do you remember, 2,000 people out of work? We were just about paying welfare bills month to month, and it then started to turn around. And we've had a very, very good track record of progress financially and in business. And as the Chief Minister said yesterday, there's a worldwide problem. I mean, everything's up and down all over the world. We just happen to be here. So what do you think? Oh, by the way, before 1 o'clock, it's Monday. You know what Monday means? It's the 60th anniversary of Manx Radio. We're going back to a classic edition of Time to Remember, when David Collister spoke to Ernie Griffin, who farmed at Cregneash. That's after Mannin Line today. Ernie Griffin from Cregneash will be with David Collister. Howard's with us now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Just listened to all the your folks that were on there about Manx Care. The blood pressure, the levels of blood pressure that were normally associated with low, high, medium and otherwise, they were adopted by the UK medical profession, I was going to say industry. But recently, the American Heart Association reduced the number, the upper number and the lower number. They reduced them quite considerably, and now they're saying the normal or the start of blood pressure problems starts at 120, whereas previous to that they were saying 140 or even slightly higher. So this is going to affect an awful lot more people, and I was just wondering, because our family have always had blood pressure. My mother, my brother, my sister, myself. We've always suffered from it. And I take tablets on a daily basis. But when I went up through to the diabetes clinic a couple of weeks ago, shortly after that I got a phone call. Oh, your blood pressure's up. We want to take a check and this, that and the other. Can you do it at home? I've been doing that, and my blood pressure is quite reasonable. It can get a bit irate or raised at times with certain problems, but normally it's not too bad. But it's not on the 120 on the higher rate. It's slightly higher, not much, but it costs, makes you wonder how much of this information, and this is coming from the American Heart Association, and it has been adopted by the British Medical Association. How much of this is driven by the pharmaceutical companies to introduce more tablets?
Well, the thing is, Howard, we never know, do we? All we know is that we trust people, we trust the medical professionals to know more than we do, and it's their job to make us better. It's their job to improve our life. It's what they're in business for. But we don't know the connection between the medical professionals and what they call it big pharma, don't they? We don't know we don't know what the connection is.
Well, I've got that book upstairs, Big Bad Pharma, it's called, not Big, Bad Pharma. And it was a doctor since retired, recommended that to me. As I said to you once before, it's heavy reading, but it's scary. And, a lot of the pharmaceutical companies, the big ones, they're billion pound or dollar companies, and they're not going to let you go. You're just a number in their money books. And the more tablets they can get you to take, the doctors, I don't know whether they'll get a bonus, because the doctors now are the GPs. They are a business, and you are essentially a commodity on the shelf. And in lots of cases, you're just a number where they can make money out of you. I know it's a sad tale. The little doctors that used to have to come round, and they've disappeared. Now, I've got to take my own blood pressure and then put it in, and a doctor that I'd never even seen, I wouldn't know what he looked like if I walked into the surgery. And he's wanting to judge what my blood pressure should be.
So just the thing about America, how do you say? So previously, if you got a blood pressure of over, let's just say 140/95 or something like that.
Yeah.
What's it called? The systolic and diastolic, isn't it?
That's it.
So if the first one was over 140, you were in trouble. Now they're saying in America, if it's over 120, you're in trouble.
Yep, that's what it is. They've reduced the overall numbers. And again, as I say, this is where it makes you wonder whether it's the pharmaceutical companies that's putting pressure and the world authorities are accepting this as being verbatim. And it's billions of pounds more in the pharmaceutical companies' coffers. And we are just the providers of that. So I've been doing my blood pressure all week. And it's a well-known fact. It's what they call the white coat syndrome. And the doctor or the nurse's room is not the best place for this, because there are a natural rise in your blood pressure. Yeah. It's a well-known phenomenon. And they take that as verbatim. But the previous nurse said to me, she looked at my blood pressure, and the usual thing, as I say, I'm happy enough with that. But the one I've just got now is not happy with it, and it's lower. They want to bring it down to 120. But how can you have one size fits all? Because everybody's different.
Well, I mean, times have changed, Howard, haven't they? I mean, the advances in the medical technology and the lives that have been saved over the past 50 years are phenomenal. It seems now that everybody, I don't know, maybe we're all expecting too much from the pharmaceutical industry, and maybe, as you say, they're in business. Of course they're in business. They want to make money. Everybody's at some level will be taking money from it. So you just wonder where it's going to end.
Well, the people that on this planet who are in what we call medically professional company systems, where like the Manx Care, the NHS and everything else, that is a lucrative trade. It's a license to print money. And the people who are there under this subject, the doctors, etc., how much pressure is being put on the doctors? Because this nurse said to me, the doctor will want to change your medication. He has never seen me. So how can he tell what, apart from medical records, and these are not infallible, how can he tell by never having seen me in my life? I wouldn't even know what he looked like. And he will do this over the phone. So no, as I say, there's pressure somewhere within the medical profession to dish out tablets.
Okay, all right, appreciate it. It's enough to put your blood pressure up, isn't it, Howard?
It is that. It's about 300 now, I think.
All right. Go to sit down. Thanks for calling.
That's it. Take care. Bye now.
20-1 on Manx Radio. Where do we go from here? I mean, it's not your or my problem, but obviously the Chief Minister's got this problem on behalf of us, because we all want Manx Care, don't we? We all like the treatment that Manx Care gives us. I got a note in from Shaney, who just said, look, one of the problems at A&E, or the emergency department, or whatever it's called these days, is because there aren't enough GPs. If you can't see a GP, lots of people go to meds or then end up in the emergency department. So surely, if they got the number of GPs right, it would start to ease the pressure on the hospital. Is it a shortfall or is it an overspend, says 861. And the overspend, says Roy, is directly the overspend in the NHS directly relates to people coming abroad using a free healthcare system. Is that true, Roy? Can anybody come from anywhere and use our healthcare system? And regarding, this is Adam who just says, regarding this situation, well, it was said yesterday, Chris Thomas said yesterday, he thought Mr. Hooper may no longer be in position by the end of the week. And Adam says Mr. Hooper has failed to get Manx Care the budget that they needed. He failed to make sure that Manx Care kept to the budget that they have. Well, it sounds he couldn't win either way, doesn't it? We'll see. Anyway, Adam, thanks for that. The government conference is being held at a place that many people like myself can't get to. It's convenient for them, but not for the people. Sounds about right. Many are planning to leave, says CC. Chief Minister addressed that. He said that basically when it was held at the Villa Marina, which is, it's like a cathedral, isn't it, the Villa, the Comis is a lot smaller, so people aren't going to be rattling around in the Comis like they were in the Villa Marina. That was what he said yesterday. Ian said, just a thought regarding the new houses in Peel. Wouldn't it be helpful if they were affordable? All affordable rather than just a small number. There are plenty of people who need houses but are priced out of the market. Well, coincidentally, next week, a week on Wednesday, David Ashford is here, chair of the Communities and Housing Board. And we'll be asking, I've got lots of questions that have been sent in regarding housing and affordable housing and getting people onto the property ladder. And if you want to put one onto the pile, just email manninline@manxradio.com or call the answer phone on 682-631.
Wedding planners and photographers looking for a truly unique backdrop for wedding photography? Then consider the historic Queen's Pier in Ramsey for a stunning coastal backdrop for truly memorable photographs. It offers a fantastic location to photographers in exchange for an affordable donation. Visit the Queen's Pier Restoration on Facebook, or to discuss photo opportunities, call Graham on 355 104. That's 355 104. This audio has been kindly sponsored by Paul Carey & Sons.
Today, Manx Petroleum keeps our island moving. For the drivers, for the school runners, for the deliverers, and the adrenaline seekers. Today and every day, the island's longest-serving distributor will be powering thousands of journeys with our premium road fuels. Manx Petroleum, always here for you. Fill up now or visit mp.im.
Drive smarter, drive more reliable, drive a great deal at Mannin Motors, with a superb range of cars for every budget, always available. And if we don't have it, we'll source it. Plus, servicing, valeting and prestige detailing too. Mannin Motors, Richmond Hill, Douglas. Find us on Facebook or call 420 420. That's 420 420. Drive a better bargain at Mannin Motors.
The Musicals in Concert returns to the Royal Hall Villa Marina, Sunday 13th of October, presented by Stage Ed, featuring classic songs from the world's greatest musicals in a gala performance by stars from the London stage. The Musicals in Concert, Sunday 13th October at the Villa Marina. Book now at villagaiety.com or on 600 555 with Zedra Isle of Man and supported by your nation station, Manx Radio.
The Sunday Chill Out.
Hi, this is Chris Pearson from The Chill Out Show. On Sunday 22nd September, we'll be marking the end of summer with a live outside broadcast from the Cafe at the Sound between 6 and 9. Why not come and join us for some fantastic sunset views over the Calf for the autumn equinox? With drinks and chilled out tunes, the night is free, but we'll be raising cash for the I'll Listen charity. The Chill Out Show at the Cafe at the Sound this Sunday from 6 p.m.
Flocking to the sea.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Hey, it's 1:45. A note in from Gary, who just said the government needs to accept the NI system is a Ponzi scheme. They should invest potential Kroger billions to finance pensions and health for people above a certain age, and then workers under that age should pay into private pensions and health insurance instead of the NI system. It might take a generation or more to balance the books, but unless something radical is done, the system will implode and collapse. Thank you, Gary. Andrew's with us now. Hi, Andrew.
Hi there. Please, I just caught Tony's comments. I think, were they sack the board?
That's what. Yes, he did say that.
Manx Care. Okay, so I was just looking at the board, and they do have there listed a finance director. Okay, and just a bit of research there on the finance director. Minimal qualifications. As far as I can find, university, business and economics. That's it. There's no accountancy qualification at all. So what should be in place, surely, would be a cost accountant to prepare the budgets, etc. And feasibly, looking at what I can see, obviously, there isn't anybody who's able to set a proper budget. Because if they can set a budget, then they work to it. And if it's not done after 1 year, give them some leeway. If it's not done after the second year, out. That's what I would do in a private organisation. Out, get a replacement. Somebody who can do the job that they're asked to do. That's pretty much all I've got to say.
Well, the thing is, Andrew, obviously this was government policy. The Michaels report said they're going to split politics from the day-to-day running of it. That was their decision. They did it. I mean, we don't know behind the scenes whether the government's given Manx Care an impossible job to do. We don't know whether, because, it had never happened up until 3 years ago. We'd never had this situation. So they created Manx Care, said, off you go, you do it. And Manx Care, and then, of course, we were in COVID and post-COVID and what have you. So we don't know. We don't know what the ins and outs of it. And we don't know what the politicking that's been going on is. It all we know is that we don't have enough dentists, we don't have enough doctors, there are some problems, there are often queues here, there and everywhere, and lots of the wards aren't being used, and we don't have a private department there anyway.
Exactly. Yes. But when you're coming to set the budget, something's going on, so that's either somebody's being economical with the truth when the budget is being publicised, or they're not capable of doing it. It has to be one or the other.
Well, as you say, if this were a private organisation, something would have been done at board level very quickly.
It would have been. I personally, if it was in my private company, the person would be out because they're not able to do the job. Have you set the budget? Yes. Well, why are we not to it? Why are we not working to it? Okay, this was some exceptional circumstance. Okay, so next year, this is what's happening. Okay, this is the budget. There we go. And if you still don't get to the budget, then you're out because you're obviously not capable of doing it.
I mean, do you think Manx Care is fit for purpose?
Jury's out on that, because I think this is just a way of pushing the accountability away from the politicians,
and that's
from the
minister. Point. That's the point.
It is,
Andrew, is the fact that if they created Manx Care to take the heat and make them the whipping boy for not hitting target, then whose fault is this really?
But it comes back to what are the politicians for? The politicians are only there to set policy. They're not there to manage micromanage what's going on in a department.
Yeah.
And that's where it's all fallen down. The politicians should set the policy. The chief executive of the department is there to implement the policy, and it should all filter down from that chief executive. And if the things don't happen, then the politician turns to the chief executive and says, look, why has this not happened? You're in the position to make it happen. if you're not there, they should have the ability to remove that chief executive.
Okay. All right, we appreciate that, Andrew.
Very good. Thanks now.
Good to hear from you. And Alan's with us now. Hi, Alan.
Hello. Good afternoon, Mr. Wint. I'd just like to explain something what Skinflint Hooper is up to. The kitchens in Ramsey Cottage have now been closed down, and they're starting to bring in food from the Douglas, Nobles Hospital, and it's having to come over Snaefell or around the coastal road to the hospital. Well, I can tell you now, the food is cold, it's not appetizing, it's nothing. So if this is what Skinflint Hooper is up to, I can tell you things are well on the way.
When did they close the kitchens at Ramsey?
Well, this has been about a month ago, I would say. And they're starting bringing food in from Nobles Hospital, which I think is occasionally the only food I like really is on a Friday when they do a reasonable fish and chip. But that is done on premises to a large extent. But a lot of the food that is being brought in is from Nobles Hospital, and all I can say is nothing but sponge and custard every day, and that's all it is. Another thing I'd like to highlight, there's a gentleman here, he's got a serious bump on his back, and he was set up for an appointment to Nobles Hospital. He's very frail and everything, and he had to go by ambulance over the mountain to his appointment in Douglas. Well, when he got there, they turned around and said it has been cancelled. So the gentleman had to come all the way back to Ramsey. There's numerous other small things, which, as far as I'm concerned, Skinflint Hooper is not getting my vote. And I don't think a lot of people in Ramsey are going to give him their vote.
Okay.
Because it's a complete disaster.
Alan,
to tell you the truth, with Manx Care.
We appreciate it. Thanks for calling today. Thanks for being with us on Mannin Line. Difficult times call for difficult decisions, says Sue. Hopefully the assisted dying could help save money for Manx Care and offer civil servants a potential pay rise, says Sue. As far as I can remember, the NHS never stayed in budget yet, not just since Manx Care, says Liz. So is this the case of the politicians blaming Manx Care, perhaps giving Manx Care a job that they couldn't do? Trust me, says 134. I don't even know you, 134, but anyway, trust me, throw a stick at Nobles, you'll hit an accountant before you hit a doctor. Thanks also to, that's Gary talking about the Ponzi scheme. I had a blood test a couple of months back, says Desmond. The lady said my cholesterol was high, and she'd been talking to salespeople who were showing a little chart which tells her where I have to take statins. I'm not taking statins, says Des. Chatted to a lady from Groudley who said the MUA refused to take solar energy from her as there was no capacity, says 143. How can that be green, and how will the wind farm get on the grid if a home supply won't work? You don't get much, do you, if you generate electricity for the MUA? So is it right? Is the blood pressure flag now at 120 or 140? First number, that is. Remember, this coming Friday, Tim Johnson and Mark Lewin from Enterprise. Next Wednesday, David Ashford, Communities and Housing Board. And thanks to Howie Kane on the phones today.
WINT. 60 years serving you as the nation's station. This is Manx Radio.
Farming on the island is generally set in its ways, season to season. You can largely predict what will happen, weather aside, of course. But occasionally, things happen that come completely out of the blue. Ernie Griffin, who farmed at Cregneash, recalled two occasions, one involving a cow and its milk, and the other an escaped pig which decided to drop in on a local church service.
They were all in church, and I never thought on the door open, you see. And when you come down off the road, the wall goes so far, and then the church doors in on the cement thing.
Yes.
She darted in there. I didn't stop. Off in the house, locked the door of the bedroom, watching them out. But There was an old fella in there, Harry Watson. He got out. She emptied the church, but he got out and put her back in the yard and shut the gate. Then they come thumping at the door. Naturally, I didn't open it.
So the pig put the fright up the congregation then?
Oh, well, she emptied them all. This cow mother bought a thing, she's just uncalving. And we're going across the green to the field. And the kids must have been playing with a rubber ball. Anyway, this cow got stoppage. And Mr. Atkinson, the vet, was coming up then. Whole week coming up nearly every day, giving her this, giving her that, giving her the other. And we were giving her linseed oil in between. She just done calving. And we were using the milk and giving to the people. So, anyway, he come up on the Saturday and he said, I wouldn't give you a tuppence for a cow. I could see it. She was all sinking in the eyes and she hadn't passed nothing. So I went in, I got an old book of my grandfather's and I read the recipes. And there was one there to give a quart of melted lard. Within 2 hours it was there. The linseed oil, everything come from her the same as was put in her.
Yeah.
And what was it but these solid rubber balls that the kiddies was playing with.
Really?
That stopped it.
Yeah.
And lard shifted it.
The lard did the trick. And did she survive after that?
Oh, survived, had her for years. But the next morning, the people were calling to the house for the milk, and they were playing Hamlet with the wife about the grease coming to the top of the tea. Had gone through her from the night before into the milk.
Gosh.
You wouldn't have believed that.
Part of Island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.